Now we will look at several things you can do directly before your presentation to reduce communication apprehension. Tip number 1. Dress comfortably and appropriately. You have only a few seconds to make a good first impression, so when you stand in front of an audience, make sure you are physically setting that impression. If you are uncomfortable about your appearance, you will be uncomfortable in front of an audience. Dress in an appropriate and professional manner to reduce anxiety concerning your physical appearance. Some clothing that should not be worn during a speech includes shirts with phrases or pictures, anything riddled with holes, noisy jewelry, and baseball caps. You want your audience to focus on what you say, not be distracted by what you wear. This tip will help with the anxiety of communicating with strangers because you will give them a good first impression. You will also want to choose clothing that is comfortable so you are able to breathe and are free to move around. Tip number 2. Arrive early. Gather and set out your materials the night before, and leave a bit early so you arrive prepared with plenty of time before your speech. If you rush to class, you will elevate your heart rate and become emotionally fatigued, flustered, and breathless, which will only add to your tension. Tip number 3. Take measures to relax your body. One way to do this is to take several deep breaths. Anxiety constricts chest and throat muscles, but a couple of deep breaths will open airways and send oxygen to the lungs and brain. Another way to relax your body would be to clench your hands, legs, and other muscles for several seconds and then relax those muscles. This measure will allow you to release extra tension that has been created by a rush of adrenaline. Next, we will look at ways of reducing nervousness during your speech. Tip number 1. Concentrate on your audience instead of yourself. Dwelling on superficial things about yourself will always hurt your speech. Because the objective is to connect with your audience, you need to focus on your audience. As you view those sitting before you, look for signs of understanding. A nod, a smile, and upright postures indicate that your audience is actively listening. In case you see signs of confusion, prepare alternative explanations for areas that may be difficult to understand. Tip number 2. Maintain eye contact with members of your audience. You may feel inclined to stare at your notes and never look up, but this will project your lack of confidence and only make you feel more anxious. If you are overwhelmed by the amount of faces in front of you, focus only on friendly faces that will give you positive feedback. This tip is particularly useful with the anxiety felt speaking in front of larger audiences because it will help narrow down the size of the audience. Tip number 3. Use visual aids. Visual aids are a great way to get a complex idea across to your audience. They can also create an activity for your hands and shift your audience's attention directly off of you. Make sure to practice your speech using these visual aids. This suggestion should be used with caution, however, because there is such a thing as using too many visual aids. Visual aids should be used appropriately and not completely distract the audience. Tip number 4. Take a break. If you become overwhelmed, it is okay to pause and collect your thoughts. Take a deep breath, smile, find your place, and continue on. You can also bring a bottle of water with you to the podium in case you feel your mouth become dry during your presentation. Finally, we will look at ways to cope with nervousness after you have delivered your speech. Tip number 1. Put the occasion into perspective. It is likely that your life will not be greatly impacted after you present your speech. There won't be a note on your college transcript indicating how poorly you performed on your first speech. You may feel your life is coming apart at the seams at that moment, but remember, the entire experience will be forgotten in a number of years. Tip number 2. Resist the urge to push the experience out of your mind. View each speech as a learning experience and a chance for personal growth. Review your performance and look for areas that need improvement as well as areas you excelled in. Take your instructor's feedback and make the necessary changes for your next presentation. Tip number 3. Gain experience. Most beginning speakers feel their anxieties decrease after each presentation they give. The more experience you have speaking, the more confident you will become. Each opportunity will give you more feedback and new areas to work on. This tip will help with the anxiety felt from communicating with others in unfamiliar and novel situations, because the more experience you have, the more familiar the outcome will be. The goal of these recommendations is to help students maximize control over the presentation environment in a realistic manner. You may only need to follow one or two of these recommendations to control your nervousness. Or you may find that even after following all of the coping mechanisms, you may still experience apprehension. In the end, you must learn what helps you the most in managing your feelings of anxiety. Let's review. Being nervous about presenting a speech is both natural and normal. Communication apprehension is the fear or anxiety one experiences in association with real or anticipated communication with others. Some physical signs of communication apprehension include tightness in the throat, dry mouth, frequent swallowing, a sinking feeling in the stomach, increased perspiration, and an accelerated heart rate. There are several things you can do before your speech, during your speech, and following your speech that will help you cope with nervousness during your speech. Tips for before your speech include: first, select a topic you are comfortable talking about. Second, prepare all aspects of your speech thoroughly in advance. Third, practice delivering and timing your speech. Fourth, familiarize yourself with the equipment and physical arrangement of the setting you will be delivering your speech in. And fifth, develop a positive attitude. Tips for directly before you begin your speech include: first, dress comfortably and appropriately. Second, arrive early. And third, take measures to relax your body. Tips for reducing anxiety during your speech include: first, concentrate on your audience instead of yourself. Second, maintain eye contact with members of your audience. Third, use visual aids. And fourth, take a break if you need one. Finally, tips for reducing anxiety after your speech include: first, put the occasion into perspective. Second, resist the urge to push the experience out of your mind. And third, gain experience. Thank you for visiting the Public Speaking Project's virtual classroom. To view other modules about speech writing, go to www.publicspeakingproject.org.